Health Works with Data Care, and I am just bringing for you today a vegetarian quinoa burrito bowl, which you certainly can make any which way that you want. I would really encourage you to make it the way that you would want, plus on top of whatever it is that you have in your kitchen. One of the things that I found this morning that I had to change, because last night someone did use the avocados in our fridge. So I got lucky and realized that I did have some of these from the freezer. They're not my top pick, but you can get avocado chunks in the freezer. I also thought I was out of black beans, and so I did actually make some in the Instant Pot. But this would generally be my go-to a lot quicker in terms of doing things. I'm gonna post the recipe so you will see, you know, exactly everything that is. But my quinoa is just about ready. Quinoa is really simple. Just ends up 2 cups of water to 1 cup of quinoa. So it's just a 2-to-1 ratio. If you did not want to spend as much time and do as much with that, there's just as easy to do the 90-second brown rices. You just need to make sure and look that they are actually only brown rice and nothing else. If they've got chicken or some other thing with them, they will usually be pretty full of sodium. But these are 2 of the most common brands that I see. The Uncle Ben's, you can also usually find a generic brand, and then also the Seeds of Change. So this is a super simple way to make a whole grain, especially for a dinner, which is extremely common. Then, and just by the way, the quinoa that I used was just simply one from Aldi, really simple. I've already chopped up the peppers and onions, tried to make them as uniform as possible. Each of them, I've made the chunks of the onion quite a bit bigger, just simply because onion is not as dense and just really shapes down, so to speak, when you do it. And you know, the recipe calls for a specific amount of spices. And for me, I just like to throw in the amount of spices. It's just less work to sort of combine. And so, well, there I go. Just taking, you know, the peppers, adding that blend of spices, and then tossing right with your hands, versus doing all of the measuring. But just to keep it simpler, I did pre-measure those out already, just simply to make things simpler. Stir that quickly, and that's all that's going to require before we're going to toss that out onto a sheet pan. And then the other technique that I do want to show you, and so you can see how you have some glisten on there, but you want to spread out as much as possible so that your veggies have some time and space, and that they're not steamed, but instead they get roasted. And then I'm using tofu, which is one of my preferences that I really like. And so if you've never worked with tofu, I don't have a press. The only thing that I use as my tofu press is just simply using my cast iron pan. And then I will put and this has just been sitting here for, you know, 5 minutes or whatever. And I just have some paper towels to absorb the water to get it pressed out. The tofu that I bought actually is what's called a super firm, which I've never bought before. And I noticed there's a lot less water, obviously. But super firm and Nasoya is the brand that this is, which I kind of prefer. Super firm, extra firm would be generally the type that you're going to want to use super firm, extra firm would be the type that you'd want to use with a recipe like this, where you are going to have the tofu as chunks. So I'm just simply going to slice this and slice this again into some uniform pieces, but I just wanted to kind of show you what that looks like and how easy it is to do that. Your knife doesn't have to be near as sharp as it might be if you're cutting up chicken or something like that. So now I've cut crossways and I'm gonna cut the other direction. And then I'm gonna be doing the same exact thing that I did with the onions and peppers, where I'm just gonna toss them in a similar coating. The recipe calls for a slightly different amount of spices. I'm gonna use the same exact spices. And then through the magic of TV, I will show you the finished product. Okay, Jack. All right, so through the magic of TV, we are back with you. As you can see, I've pretty well managed to clean up pretty much everything as I'm getting everything ready. And now we're at the point where all you have to do is assemble it. So this is kind of the fun part, right? So I have my quinoa again that is completely ready to go. So that's how I'm gonna start out and dish out. You'll notice that it just gets expanded just like any other grain after it cooks. Quinoa is not technically a grain, but it in general is seen as a grain, high in protein. I'm not very good at presentation, so. And then here's my beans, and again, I happen to do them in the Instant Pot, but in a typical normal fashion, I would have just used that old can of beans that was rinsed and drained. I would have heated them. These I did not heat since they came from the Instant Pot. Put some cumin in, and then also added some lime juice. By some freak of nature, we actually had a random lime in the fridge, and so I was able to use that. Then I've got my avocado chunks to put out. They look like they could use just a little bit more thawing time, so just something to think about if you take them from the freezer. And then lastly, my tofu and my peppers and onions are ready. You can see how they've cooked down and taken on that spice. I ended up with 2 different sheets, but this is my sheet with the peppers. So you can add that in. Obviously, if you're not a fan of tofu, there's any other protein source that you could put in, or wouldn't even have to put in anything at all. And that's it. Voila. You know, design it and function it the way that you'd like it, and based off what you have in your pantry and what you have in your kitchen. So this is Carrie Greaves signing off, and hope that you try it. Thanks.